Part 6. After Early Consequences. The Fire, other parts down below. Weeks later, I awoke in an unfamiliar bed, feeling disoriented. My mouth was parched, my head ached both behind my eyes and at the back of my skull. I sensed a feeling of confinement. Gradually, I became aware of bare arms wrapped around me and the warmth of another body pressed close. For a fleeting moment, I almost called out Beth's name, but then a soft voice interrupted my thoughts. "Yes, Honor. It's okay. Just relax. I'll fetch you some water and aspirin." As the arms withdrew, a sense of loss momentarily gripped me. I rolled onto my back and watched her walk away, clad in a long, plain cotton nightgown adorned with small flowers, the hem nearly touching her bare feet. Realizing I was only in my boxers, I hastily covered myself with the sheet. She returned, offering me water and aspirin. "Drink this all up," she instructed. My head's throbbing, I mumbled. Her response was tinged with a hint of annoyance. "That's hardly surprising, considering your attempt to outdrink St. John's." Memories began to resurface, images and words, her stern gaze, and an unfamiliar girl's overly enthusiastic attention. I'm at a loss for words. She settled back beside me. "Just rest for now," she said, placing her hand on my chest and resting her head on my shoulder. We lay there in silence, her presence comforting. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling her body relax against mine. "I've never been that drunk in my life. Was it really bad?" Her next words came with a quiver. "Before or after you pretended to undress me and made a move on me?" I recoiled in horror. "I didn't, did I? Please say I didn't do anything to you." Quickly, she seized my arm, placing it back around her. "Relax, you didn't do anything. You could barely stand. It took 2 guys to get you here." I let out a relieved sigh. "Jane, you nearly gave me a heart attack." She gave a playful slap on my chest. "You finally got my name right. You kept calling me Beth all night. You really had me worried there." I slumped back, feeling utterly dejected. "Shit," I muttered under my breath. She tightened her embrace reassuringly. "It's okay," she murmured, her lips brushing against my shoulder, a faint chuckle escaping her. "You know, you've become quite the legend around here. The mysterious millionaire from afar, with a rock star aura, a heartbreaking story, and a touch of the bad boy. Honor the noof." Her words stirred a mixture of emotions in me. They might have nailed the tragic part. "I'm completely adrift, Janie. I'm losing my grasp on things. This isn't me. I'm usually the one who's got it all together, you know. Calm, collected, with a plan for life." She mused thoughtfully. "Maybe you needed to let loose a little. To find a balance between the 2 extremes. You're too young, too full of life to be just a serious guy." I managed a wry smile. "No one's ever called me handsome, Janie. Not even my mom." She playfully tugged at my beard. "Then they must be blind. You've got the look of a rugged lumberjack, not some stuffy businessman." A moment of silence fell between us before she continued. "Are you really a millionaire? You mentioned giving your business to your wife. You weren't just making that up, were you?" "No, I wasn't lying," I assured her. "I took a bit of money out of the business before I left, a small fraction of our reserves. Plus, there was the patent I sold for a couple million, and some investments I had offshore. So yes, I have a few million. But money's just money, doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things." She nudged me playfully. "What's this gold mine you mentioned?" I exhaled, realizing how much I had revealed in my drunken state. Was I really rambling about that? She nodded, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "So, was it just talk, or do you have another big idea up your sleeve?" I sighed again, feeling the weight of my words. "No, it's true. I sold that patent because I've got something even better. If the one I sold was worth millions, this new one, it's a game changer. I was going to use it in my business, but after everything, they don't deserve it." I walked away, left them the business, but without my patents, it'll be a tough road for them. "So you're going to leave them high and dry? Is that your way of getting back at them?" she asked, her tone probing yet gentle. Feeling a mix of irritation and frustration, I couldn't help but voice my thoughts. Why shouldn't I let them face the consequences? After everything they did to me, I poured my life into that business, into that town, for them. My voice was rising, tension building in my chest. I didn't love the business, I did it because I had to, for them. And they repaid me with betrayal. Every single one of them. As I ranted, she gently pulled me close, her embrace slowly calming my racing heart. Once I had settled down, she gave me a soft, comforting kiss. Despite her gentle approach, I couldn't help but feel defensive. "Are you saying I'm lying?" "I don't lie, Janie. I don't." She kissed me again, her lips lingering a bit longer this time. "No, Honor. I think you're not being honest with yourself. You're not going to let them fail. You'll step in. You'll save them. I don't understand why, but you will." Her words hit a nerve. "But why should I?" I asked, my voice a mix of anger and confusion. Janie responded with a sense of certainty. "You will because it's who you are. I can't explain it, but I know you'll find a way to help them." I felt a deep sense of betrayal and sadness as I thought about it. They all turned their backs on me. My wife, my mother, my family, my employees. Every last one. Janie looked up at me, her eyes filled with understanding. "I know, and I'm so sorry, but you're better than them. They don't deserve you, and yet you're going to help them anyway." I admitted softly, "I hate them for what they did. It's what they did you hate, not them, she gently corrected. I pondered her words, still grappling with the emotions they stirred. Why couldn't just one person have taken my side? Wasn't I worth that? I dedicated my life to them. Janie shifted beneath me, her gaze sincere and empathetic. I don't know, Honor. It's hard to understand. I leaned down, kissing her deeply, my hand instinctively wandering, but she gently pushed me away. No, Honor, you're not free yet. You're still tied to her, to them. We can't do this. She was right, and I backed off, instead kissing her forehead gently. You're right, Janie. I'm not free yet. I don't know how to let go. I'm trying. Go back, sort things out. And if one day you're truly free, think of me, she whispered. I'll keep you in my thoughts. There's something about you, Janie, something that resonates deep within me, like a call to a part of myself I didn't know existed. Janie's response was a mixture of warmth and intensity. I feel a connection too, Honor. It's like a reflection of my own feelings. After a pause, she changed the topic. You should get dressed. I think it's time we head back to your hotel, and maybe grab a small bite for breakfast. I know you're without cash right now. I suggested, how about we clean up and then head over to my place? I need to freshen up, and then I can treat you to a generous breakfast. She laughed lightly. That sounds tempting, but remember, we have Sunday dinner at Nanny's. She won't be pleased if we don't have an appetite for her cooking. A light brunch should suffice. As she prepared herself, I dressed in yesterday's clothes and listened to her singing from the bathroom, her voice lifting my spirits. Later, sitting at a sidewalk cafe, enjoying the morning sun and a simple English breakfast, she looked at me curiously. Who are you, Honor? The open-hearted man, the wanderer, the singer, the enigmatic foreigner. What's your identity now? I pondered her question. I wish I knew myself. Right now, I'm just someone who's enjoying the moment, the company of a wonderful person under a beautiful sky. Her expression grew serious. How long do you plan to stay? When will you go back? I'm not sure, I admitted. I know I need to return eventually, find some resolution. But the thought makes me uneasy. What are you afraid of? She asked, concern in her voice. It's hard to explain. I'm worried I might get pulled back into their lives, lose myself again in trying to fix everything for everyone else. I'm always expected to do the right thing, but what if this time the right thing is to prioritize my own well-being? Janie nodded understandingly. That's exactly what you need to do, Honor. Focus on yourself for a change. Don't let your past misery define you. Her words rang true, and I made a mental note to consider them deeply. That's easy to say, but my whole life revolved around Beth, I sighed. Janie gently shook her head. Honor, heartbreak is a part of life. The fact that you've managed to avoid it for so long is surprising. It's painful, sure, but with time, the pain lessens. Eventually, it becomes just a memory, one that's not pleasant to revisit. I looked at her curiously. You know what's strange? I just realized your accent has disappeared. She blushed slightly. Well, I guess I tend to adapt to my company. Around my family and in the local areas, I naturally slip into the accent. But with you, I think I unconsciously match your speech. Does everyone do that? She chuckled. Oh no, definitely not. Ronnie, Diane, and the others. Their accents are a part of them, as natural as breathing. I could lie if I needed to, I countered playfully. She looked at me skeptically. Really? What if you said something unkind? I met her gaze and said jokingly, like if I said I think you're not attractive. Her expression shifted to one of mock hurt. Wait, no, that's not what I think at all. You're stunning, Janie. Truly beautiful. I didn't mean that, I hurriedly corrected myself. She burst into laughter. You're terrible at lying, Honor. You couldn't even hold that for 5 seconds without taking it back. She squeezed my hand reassuringly. But you know, that honesty is something special. She then grew a bit more serious. However, I'm not sure how I feel about even a pretend attempt to hurt my feelings. I felt a pang of regret. I'm truly sorry, Janie. It was a thoughtless joke. She considered this for a moment. I believe you. But sometimes, even in jest, words can sting. Let's just be mindful of that, okay? I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and a renewed sense of connection. Absolutely, Janie. I'll remember that. She winked playfully. That's the way to do it. Confident and convincing. That's how a good fib is told. I was momentarily speechless, my mouth opening but no words coming out. She laughed lightly. I'm just pulling your leg, Honor. That was a bit harsh, I remarked. And you think you didn't deserve it. Or should I remind you about last night? She teased. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I conceded. You got me there, Jane. She stood up, her smile beaming. How about taking me for a spin on your motorcycle, Honor? We have some time before we need to be at Nanny's. Let's head to Cape Spear. Cape Spear. Yes, it's the easternmost point in North America. It's beautiful there. I should call my kids before we go. I promised them I'd call around this time whenever possible. Then let's not delay. Time is precious. I realized then that I was the one wasting precious moments. Unfortunately, my daughter Marie was still not ready to talk to me. Carol, trying to be helpful, asked, Do you have a moment for Beth? Not today, Carol. Maybe tomorrow. Refusing Carol's request felt strange. She looked somewhat surprised. Okay, but talking to her might lift her spirits. She's been quite down. Not today, Carol. I understand, Honor. Just don't give up on them, okay? I'll speak to you tomorrow. Thanks for your efforts with Marie. With a nod, I ended the call. Jane tactfully didn't press me about the conversation. We then drove to a motorcycle shop to pick up a helmet for her, as I only had one. Canadian laws were more strict about helmets than many states. Within 20 minutes, we arrived at the point, standing high above the ocean under the shadow of the old lighthouse. The landscape was breathtaking, and having Jane by my side to share it made the experience even more special. We strolled together, her hand in mine, as she shared snippets of the area's history. Time seemed to fly, and before I knew it, Jane mentioned we needed to head to her grandparents' place. Riding the bike with her close to me, her arms around my waist, felt comforting. Jane's presence made me almost forget about Beth, something I hadn't expected. She insisted on a quick detour to Quidi Vidi, explaining the annual regatta and trying to persuade me to attend the next one. It's a big part of our culture here in Argentia, honor. You should experience it, she urged, as we paused by the lake. I smiled. I'd love to learn more, especially with a great guide like you. Her laugh was infectious. I'm sure you'd have no trouble finding company. Before dinner, Jane had one more surprise. She led me to a field on her family's property, explaining we were to pick partridge berries for Nanny. The bright red berries were easy to spot and pick, and we quickly filled a bag. Arriving at her grandparents' home, the place was bustling with family and the aroma of cooking filled the air. I was quickly ushered outside, where the men were congregating, leaving the kitchen in a flurry of activity. Uncle Luke presided over the group, sitting in a rocking Adirondack chair, while I was offered a well-worn one just like it. The atmosphere was lively and welcoming, a stark contrast to the solitude I'd been feeling recently. During my time at Jane's family gathering, her cousin Jeff, who had been my companion during the previous night's pub crawl, handed me a beer with an India label on it. We all chatted casually, and I found myself the subject of some good-natured teasing about my antics from the night before. You really need to get out more, Honor, one of the men joked. I couldn't remember his name, but his friendly demeanor was unmistakable. A few beers and you were out like a light. I guess I'm not as seasoned as I used to be, I admitted. It's been years since I've had more than a couple of drinks in one sitting. Jeff chimed in with a curious look. Don't you go out much back home? Unfortunately, no, I replied. Between work and family responsibilities, socializing took a back seat. I might indulge a bit at special occasions, but those are rare. Daryl, another cousin, joined the conversation. So, you don't mix music and drinks anymore? I shook my head. I haven't really played music in public since my college days. And last night, well, that was a rare exception. Uncle Luke, who was always full of wisdom, added his thoughts. You need to balance work and play, Honor. It's not healthy to be all about work. You've got to nourish your soul too. I raised my beer in agreement. I can't argue with that. I haven't felt as free as I have these past few days in a long time. Jeff, with a grin, reminded me of the previous night. You weren't exactly the picture of liveliness when we carried you up to bed. I'll be watching out for you tonight. I couldn't help but smile at Jeff's sense of responsibility, considering our age difference. Changing the subject, I asked about dinner, prompting a look of surprise from Uncle Luke. It's Sunday dinner, of course, he said, as if it should have been obvious. Daryl, or maybe it was Darren, his look-alike brother, explained further. We're having a traditional Jigs dinner. You know, boiled dinner with salt beef, turnip greens, potatoes, carrots, figgy duff, and peas pudding. I had to admit, it was all new to me. I can't say I've ever tried it, I said, intrigued by the prospect of experiencing this traditional Newfoundland feast. Uncle Luke seemed genuinely concerned about my family dynamics. Didn't your sister keep up with family traditions? He asked with a hint of frustration. My upbringing was a bit different, I explained. I spent most of my childhood in Pittsburgh, away from the family. We didn't really have regular family dinners until I moved back at 15, and by then, our grandmother's health was declining. Uncle Luke's dissatisfaction was evident. So, there was no sense of family gathering after she passed. No one else took over. I recounted our family's way of celebrating, mentioning barbecues and holiday gatherings. We still valued family, I assured him. In fact, a large part of my workforce consisted of family members, aunts, uncles, cousins. It wasn't like we lacked a sense of family. Uncle Luke seemed surprised at the scale of my business. 42 family members. What kind of business did you run? As I delved into the details of my business, its growth, and eventual betrayal by those I trusted, it turned into a deep conversation filled with probing questions. Despite the intrusive nature of their inquiries, I felt a stronger sense of kinship with them than I had with many back home. Uncle Luke lamented, a shame that, reflecting my sentiments exactly. Darren, now distinguishable by his hat, expressed his disbelief at how my situation was handled. No one stood up for you. That's not what family does, he spat. I shared his dismay. I've been wondering the same thing. I did so much for that town, and this is how they repay me. Daryl handed me another beer, showing his support. Forget about them. They don't deserve your concern. Uncle Luke, however, offered a gentle reminder. They're still family, Daryl, no matter what. He then turned to me, seeking reassurance. You were good to them, weren't you? I took a moment, then answered honestly. I believe I was. I paid well, provided benefits, helped in times of need, even funded education for some of their children. I had my rules, but they were fair. No tolerance for dishonesty or misconduct. As I spoke, I realized how much I had invested in those relationships, both personally and professionally. It was clear to me then how deep the betrayal ran, not just in business but in family ties as well. As I shared my feelings, I couldn't help but reveal my sister's criticism. She thinks I was too tough on them, and that's why they didn't like me, I admitted, a little uneasy. Daryl immediately dismissed the notion. That's not right. Being firm is part of being a good leader. They should have understood that. Being too lenient wouldn't have earned you their respect. I could only shrug in response. I tried my best. Maybe it wasn't enough. Uncle Luke, curious about my professional life, asked about the nature of my business. I detailed the workings of Honor Energy, explaining our focus on energy-efficient home systems, smart technology integration, and adapting to different climatic demands. The family seemed intrigued, sparking a lively discussion about energy needs and government incentives. As dinner approached, Jane piled my plate with an array of dishes I'd never seen before. The meal was a new experience for me, with the strong flavors of salt beef and cabbage. I was polite, praising the food, and inquired about the unfamiliar dishes. Uncle Luke seemed proud of the culinary tradition. I bet you've never had anything like this before. It's unique to our culture here. I compared it to a boiled dinner I knew, noting the differences and similarities. Anne, Daryl's wife, lamented the modern adaptations of the dish, with many opting for corned beef over salt beef. The dinner conversation broadened to family connections and local livelihoods. I learned more about Uncle Daryl's crabbing business, understanding better his perspective on leadership and responsibility. The evening was an enlightening window into a world vastly different from my own, filled with strong family bonds and a deep sense of community. The gathering was a mix of my father's first cousins, their children, and other relatives. It was a complex web of family ties, so I simplified it in my mind. My father's generation were uncles and aunts, mine were cousins, and I didn't fuss over the younger ones. Post-dinner, we reconvened outside. I was taken aback to see that about a third of the group smoked. Given the cost of cigarettes, it seemed like an expensive habit. They offered me a cigarette, a cigar, and even a pipe from Uncle Luke, but I had to explain that I never indulged in tobacco. Smarter than you look, Uncle Luke jested. When the women joined us outside, additional chairs were brought out. I tried to offer my seat to Nanny, but she wouldn't hear of it, insisting that as a guest, I was to be treated well. The conversation shifted from politics to more personal topics. Jane, who had strategically placed her chair next to mine, asked me in a hushed tone what I thought of the dinner. I admitted that while some dishes were unfamiliar, I enjoyed the experience and the company even more. "They grill you about last night?" she asked, her voice low. I assured her that there were no questions about where I had spent the night, which seemed to relieve her. I noticed she seemed a bit tipsy, perhaps from the stress of the day. The atmosphere became even more communal when neighbors joined us, bringing their own chairs and increasing our number to over 20. The presence of children running around added to the lively atmosphere. I wasn't surprised when instruments like guitars, an old ukulele, and a squeeze box appeared. One of the guitars was handed to me. Jeff's comment, "Time for the runner and waiter show," made everyone laugh, setting the stage for a night of music and camaraderie. The nickname runner for me and waiter for Ronnie initially puzzled me, but I quickly caught on, feeling a bit embarrassed as I realized the joke. We harmonized on a variety of Newfoundland songs and some popular hits. I deliberately avoided any songs with themes of betrayal or sadness, wanting to maintain the light, positive atmosphere. When it was my turn, Janie requested Your Song, a tune that used to be Beth's but now held a new significance. Despite the emotional weight of the song, I managed to start it with a light-hearted approach, eliciting laughter from the group. After my rendition, Janie sang Four Green Fields, a poignant Irish song, possibly as a tribute to her grandmother. It was a beautiful performance that resonated with the group. As the night progressed and it was my turn again, I was encouraged to play Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi, a song that had been well received at the bar. Janie, however, seemed off, refusing to sing and instead focusing on drinking more beer than I thought wise for her small frame. Her mood seemed to dampen, and I noticed others sharing my concern with subtle glances in her direction. In an attempt to lift her spirits, I chose a more upbeat song and directed my performance towards her. However, I realized that this might have been too forward when I saw her eyes fill with tears. I worried that I was unintentionally leading her on. Janie's response was unexpected. She approached Ronnie, initially getting a shake of his head in response to whatever she requested. After some insistence from her, he agreed, looking a bit embarrassed by her determination. Janie's performance was energetic, reminiscent of a music video, playfully pointing at me as she danced. The surprise on everyone's faces, including my own, was evident. Her spirited act ended with her singing directly to me, a mischievous smile on her face, before she gracefully took her seat again. The performance added a memorable, lively twist to the evening. The atmosphere in the gathering shifted to a quiet tension as Jeff sang a song with poor execution, breaking the silence and causing a few chuckles. However, the mood was soon disrupted when Jane's mother, Mary, intervened. She took Jane by the hand and led her away, likely for a serious conversation. Jane, rolling her eyes and grabbing her beer, followed her mother into the house. Once Jane was out of sight, the crowd erupted into a mix of laughter and chatter. Nanny, seemingly unaware of the undercurrents, commented on the fun nature of the song. Ronnie, feeling responsible for the situation, apologized for his part in it, explaining Jane had persuaded him strongly to play the song. Uncle Luke, however, addressed me directly with a stern warning about Jane's feelings. He emphasized that Jane was not someone to be taken lightly, conveying his concern for her well-being and hinting that she might have deeper feelings than I realized. I was quick to assure him of my respect for Jane, acknowledging the special connection we had while being mindful of my current complicated situation. As I explained, I noticed many people listening intently, highlighting the community's close-knit nature and interest in each other's affairs. Uncle Luke expressed his understanding but cautioned me not to hurt Jane, emphasizing her value and the fact that she deserved the best. Feeling the weight of Uncle Luke's words, I reaffirmed my intention to be cautious and respectful towards Jane. The mood around us slowly shifted back to normalcy as Ronnie tried to lighten the atmosphere with music. Uncle Darren, Jeffrey's father, then took the seat next to me, sparking a conversation about my business. Our discussion soon became lively, involving Jeffrey, Daryl, and young Luke, who were skeptical about the applicability and benefits of my company's services in northern climates, debating the worth of the investment. The conversation marked a return to the evening's earlier, more relaxed mood, allowing me to engage with the family on a different, more familiar topic. They'll have to adapt, innovate, and compete like everyone else, I explained, addressing Jeffrey's concern about the company functioning without the patents. The business world is about evolution. They have a solid foundation, a good team, and a loyal customer base. They can still thrive, they just need to find their own way now. Darren looked pensive. But you built that company, your vision, your hard work. Walking away, doesn't it feel like you're leaving a part of yourself behind? It does, I admitted. But sometimes, you have to let go of the past to build a future. I invested my heart and soul into that company, but it was also intertwined with betrayal. I need a fresh start, a new challenge. Uncle Luke nodded thoughtfully. It's a tough decision, but sometimes a clean break is what's needed. What's your plan now? You got something else lined up? I sighed, taking a moment before answering. For now, I'm taking a break, reflecting on things. I have some ideas brewing, and with the new patents, there's potential for something even bigger. But first, I need to sort out my personal life, find some peace. The group nodded in understanding, their expressions a mix of admiration and concern. The conversation gradually shifted to lighter topics, and as the evening progressed, the atmosphere relaxed. There was laughter, shared stories, and a sense of camaraderie that was comforting. As the sun set and the stars began to twinkle in the clear night sky, I realized that despite the turmoil in my life, moments like these, surrounded by family and new friends, were what truly mattered. It was a welcome respite from the chaos and an opportunity to rediscover a sense of belonging and purpose. They had ample time to prepare. 6 weeks is enough to strategize and stockpile essential components. They could have planned for sustainability and competitiveness, I explained, my voice firm but tinged with a hint of regret. It's entirely in their hands now. Uncle Luke, who had been a silent observer, chimed in with a poignant question. But do you really believe they'll make it work? How long do you think they have before things start to fall apart? The group fell silent, anticipating my response. Honestly, if they continue on their current path, about 6 months before they start downsizing. If they ignore the advice I left them with, maybe even less. With a bit of luck and wise decisions, perhaps they could stretch it to a year. It's been over 2 months already, and the outlook isn't promising, I said, a hint of sadness in my voice. And after that? Uncle Luke probed further. I shrugged, the weight of the situation heavy on my shoulders. If they fail, it's not just about the company. It's about the impact on the community, the local economy, the families. But I've given everything I had to that place, and they chose to betray me. I can't keep sacrificing myself for those who don't value it. Darren interjected, but you could still save them, couldn't you? I sighed deeply. Yes, I could intervene, but at what cost to myself? I've been decimated by their betrayal. My own family turned against me. I need to find myself again, far away from the betrayal and hurt. They have the resources, it's up to them to use them wisely. As I finished, Janie's arms encircled me from behind, her head resting next to mine. Enough, guys. He's been through enough. They don't deserve his help after what they've done to him, she said, her voice laced with protectiveness. Uncle Daryl, thoughtful, added, it's complex, Jane. We're just trying to understand. Family and livelihoods are at stake. Janie's response was sharp. Family isn't an excuse for everything. Sometimes, you need to step away for your own sanity. He's given them a chance. It's time for him to find his happiness, away from the chaos they caused. The conversation then shifted, as conversations do, away from my troubles and towards broader musings on happiness and life choices. Janie settled beside me, her presence a comforting reminder that amidst the turmoil, moments of peace and understanding were still possible. She chuckled softly, her voice still heavy with sleep. "Nah, it's okay. They know I wouldn't do anything stupid. Besides, it's nice here, isn't it?" I nodded, feeling the warmth of her body against mine, a comforting presence in the midst of everything that had been going on in my life. The morning light filled the room, casting a soft glow on everything. It felt peaceful, a rare moment of tranquility in the chaos of recent events. "You're right," I murmured. "It's very nice." We lay there for a while longer, enjoying the quiet morning together. The sounds of the household waking up gradually filled the air, but in our little corner of the world, time seemed to stand still. Eventually, the need to start the day nudged us into action. Jane stretched, slowly untangling herself from my embrace. "Time to face the day," she said with a smile. We got up, and I quickly fixed my disheveled appearance, feeling a bit self-conscious about spending the night on the couch with Jane. As we emerged from the family room, the smell of breakfast cooking wafted towards us. The house was bustling with morning activity, and the atmosphere was warm and inviting. It was a stark contrast to the loneliness and confusion I had been feeling lately. Sitting down to breakfast with Jane and her family, I felt a sense of belonging that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Despite the turmoil in my personal life, moments like these reminded me that there was still joy and warmth to be found in the world. It was a comforting thought as I prepared to face whatever the future might hold. I felt the tension in the air as Nanny's words echoed in the kitchen. She was right. The betrayal I had experienced was deep, and the wounds were still fresh. Yet, there was a part of me that knew she understood the gravity of the situation better than anyone. As Jane nibbled on her toast, I couldn't help but notice the way she brought a sense of lightness into the room. Her presence was a stark contrast to the heavy conversation that had just transpired. "I guess we better get moving then," I said, finishing up my breakfast quickly. The idea of starting a new day, especially after such a profound discussion, felt both daunting and necessary. Jane and I made our way out of the kitchen, the sounds of the morning household fading behind us. As we stepped outside, the fresh air felt like a much-needed reprieve from the weight of the decisions that lay ahead. The morning sun was warm, casting a golden hue over everything, and I found a moment of peace in its embrace. Jane's presence beside me was comforting, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to forget the complexities of my life. As we walked to her car, the conversation shifted to lighter topics: plans for the day, the beauty of the morning, anything but the heavy subjects that had dominated breakfast. Despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, I felt a sense of resolve building within me. The path forward might not be clear, but the conversation with Uncle Luke and Nanny had given me much to ponder. What mattered now was taking each step as it came, and for the moment, that meant enjoying the simple pleasure of a new day with Jane. I quickly finished off the remnants of my impromptu breakfast sandwich, but not fast enough to prevent Jane from playfully taking a sip of my coffee. Her lightheartedness was infectious, a welcome contrast to the intensity of the earlier conversation. She set the coffee back down beside me, her question about readiness hanging in the air. I took one final gulp of water, followed by a sip of the coffee Jane had left for me. Jane was already at the sink, efficiently rinsing off my plate. I got the sense she was eager to avoid another round of questioning, or perhaps she just didn't want to be late for work. Either way, I wasn't inclined to prolong the morning's activities, and I stood up to leave. "Thanks again for dinner and breakfast," I said, expressing my gratitude to those still in the kitchen. Jane was quick to bid farewell to Nanny, Grandpa, and Uncle Darren, her departure as swift as her arrival. I had mistaken Uncle Darren for Uncle Darrell earlier, which gave me a moment's pause. Uncle Darren extended an invitation for later in the day, which I accepted with the caveat that I had a couple of things to take care of in the morning. We agreed that I would stop by after lunch. Exiting the house and heading to the bike, I couldn't help but tease Jane about her haste to leave. Her reply about not wanting to go into work smelling like a brewery brought a smile to my face. Dropping her off at her car parked at the hotel, our farewell was marked by a warm, affectionate kiss. We made plans to meet up later in the evening, and after a brief moment of realizing I didn't have her number, she inputted it into my phone. Her playful remark about the universality of my phone's service was followed by another quick kiss and a light-hearted jab about my own need for a shower. With a smile and a hint taken, I watched her leave, the morning's complexities giving way to the simple anticipation of seeing her again in the evening. I spent the morning at a leisurely pace, indulging in a nap in the comfort of my seldom-used hotel bed. The long shower that followed was a welcome refreshment, and I left my laundry with the hotel staff for cleaning. At the front desk, I checked for any messages or issues, finding none. Back in my room, I connected with Aunt Jean to ensure everything was running smoothly back home. I passed on the invoice for the house decorator to her, grateful for her assistance. She mentioned my daughter's upcoming birthday, a reminder that pulled at me. I reassured her of my awareness and shared my tentative plans for returning. Although she hinted at Beth's struggles, I wasn't quite ready to delve into that just yet. I promised to talk to Beth soon and moved on to a quick call with Roger Hammond to check in. Aware of the time difference between St. John's and Bedenton, I timed my call to reach Carol and Marie at a convenient hour. The Skype call with Carol was warm and familiar. She updated me on Marie, who seemed to have undergone a significant change in attitude since our last interaction. Eager and chatty, Marie shared her school experiences and new friendships, filling most of our conversation. Her plea for my return tugged at my heart. Soon, Angel, I assured her, feeling both the weight and the warmth of her love. As our call wrapped up, Carol's mention of Beth's recent struggles lingered in my mind. Tomorrow. I don't think I can make it that soon, I responded thoughtfully, aware of the distance separating us. It's a long journey back, and I'm currently on an island. Maybe by this weekend, I proposed, marking the first time I had set a concrete timeline for my return. Seeing Marie's face light up, I felt a sense of commitment solidify within me. No later than Sunday, all right. I promise, I assured her, feeling the importance of this promise to both of us. Marie's little brother joined her during our call. His recognition of me on the screen, calling out Dada, was a poignant reminder of the time I had been away. Watching Marie embrace her brother, reassuring him of my impending return, was a heartwarming sight. Once Marie scampered off with the tablet, the screen wobbled chaotically before stabilizing again, showing Carol's face. Thanks for managing everything, I expressed sincerely. I imagine Dave must be frustrated with my absence. Carol negated my assumption. Actually, you seem to be the only one he isn't upset with. He's even considering visiting next weekend, since I haven't been able to return home. I felt a twinge of guilt. It won't be much longer, I promise. This break has been crucial for me. If Dave wants to visit, I'll gladly cover his travel expenses. Carol's face brightened. That's very kind of you. He started talking to Beth again, so there's some progress. Are you going to call her? Yes, right after this conversation, I confirmed. She smiled warmly. Okay, talk to you tomorrow around this time. After ending the call with Carol, I prepared myself for what might be a challenging conversation with Beth. Dialing her number, I waited for her response. Honor, is that you? Beth's voice came through the line, a mix of surprise and recognition. Yes, it's me, I replied. You recognized my number. Your mom called while you were talking with Marie, she explained, her voice carrying an undercurrent of emotion. How are you doing, Beth? I asked, trying to gauge her state of mind. Her response lacked enthusiasm. I've been better. How about you? I'm improving, I replied. I'm sorry for leaving so abruptly. I needed some time to myself. I really miss the kids. Beth exhaled deeply. But not your unfaithful wife, right? I felt a twinge of pain. Beth, of course, I miss you. We were together for over 20 years. It's just hard to process everything that's happened. Her tone shifted to sarcasm. So, are you ever coming back? Or have you settled down there for good? I'll be back soon. This time away was necessary. I miss the kids a lot. The conversation grew tense as Beth vented her frustrations. It was clear that our relationship had reached a breaking point. Frustrated, I remarked, maybe this call was a mistake. Beth's response was biting. Oh, perfect honor, admitting a mistake. That's new. I retorted, I've made my share of mistakes. Trusting you was a big one. Marrying my childhood sweetheart. That's another. Her words were bitter. Go on, hurt me. I deserve it, right? I'm a terrible person, wife, mother. Trust me, I've heard it all. Was there any reason for this call? Feeling disheartened, I concluded the call. No, I guess not. I won't bother you. Take care, Beth. She hung up without a word of farewell. The call left me feeling deflated. The one silver lining was the thought of returning to see my kids and having my own place to live. I dialed Aunt Jean again. That was a short call, she noted. Just tying up a few loose ends. Could you arrange for Dave, Carol's husband, to visit and stock my fridge with some essentials for Friday? Sure thing. Anything else? No, that's it for now. Thanks, Aunt Jean. This weekend, I think. But let's keep that between us, I said to Aunt Jean over the phone. Your business is your own, she replied. You'll love your new house. It's beautiful inside. Thanks, I said. Could you send Carol some flowers? Just to say thanks for everything she's done. Aunt Jean chuckled. More flowers. She just got a bunch on Saturday. I laughed. All right then, how about some chocolates, midweek? I'll get her one of those fancy fruit bouquets, she suggested. Then, after a brief pause, she asked, anything for your mother? I hesitated before answering. No, not right now. I'm not ready to reward her after what happened. There was a sigh from the other end. She's still your mother, Honor. Yeah, but she let my kids be watched by my wife who was unfaithful. That's hard to forgive, I said, feeling the sting of betrayal afresh. I understand, she replied, though her tone hinted at disapproval. Just let me know if you change your mind. Anything else you need? No, that's all for now. I'll email you if I think of anything else. Thanks, Aunt Jean. After ending the call, I decided to have a light lunch outside, hoping it would lift my spirits. Then, I headed over to Lena's to get directions to Darren's place. She was welcoming and insisted I have a cup of tea before giving me the directions. Lena shared that her father, Darren, worked at the jail with a schedule that gave him regular time off. It sounded like a stable job, unlike my hectic schedule of long hours. Visiting Darren, I was greeted warmly, and Anne handed me a soda, joking about not allowing drinking before dark on weekdays. My comment, I will try to finish the ending before this week ends. If you enjoyed this so far, subscribe would really help me out. and I'll see you in the next one.